for the Malservia. Under the lake bed, in the chamber of the elders, Driwis was the last of the 4 other Malservia elders that dropped dead to the ground. Miro and the others watched this in shock. They knew what had happened when one of the elders inside the chamber fell and died and the 2 others followed. It's impossible. A Malservia elder remarked. Miro was himself could not believe at the sight of his fallen elders. The Garadians breached our fortress. Chaco, who showed fright, remarked. Miro was in deep thought and his composure loosened as his fist closed tight while the stunned elders looked at him. He knew that the Garadians could not do it by themselves against their almost 15,000 Malservius that were in the East Fortress. He knew that the Garadians could have been with other large army of invaders, but unsure who could they be. When an elder began to wince in pain in their meeting, they knew that some force tried to break into their walls. They all thought that the Garadians tried again to look around, thinking that they could take them this time. They ignored it for a while joking with one another how stupid the Garadians were. After a while, when 2 other elders' faces showed pain and convulsed on the ground, they knew they were losing the fight in the east. This made them all serious as they watched another elder, and Driwis followed. What such a force can destroy his army in the east, he thought. Then, he faced the elders in the chamber. Whoever had done it must be heading here now with a large force. They are coming over for a purpose, and the only reason I can think of was they are coming for the Mals. Miro's words sent chill to the Malservia elders. The Mals. But why? Everyone knew that their eyes have no more worth in this world. Maybe, the Garadians just wanted to avenge their kinds that we killed in the past. We ignored them for years and lost knowledge of how they grew and became formidable now. Maybe. Chaco. The Garadians could not do such thing and are incapable of such magnitude to destroy our forces there. Even if thousands of years passed and even if they become capable, they won't just come over to seek revenge on their fallen. The Garadians are worms of this world feeding on cadavers and weak bodies. They even kill each other for their own selfish desires. Selfish kinds have no will to put themselves in great danger, especially if they have felt the force that befell their kinds in the past. They would rather seek truce than have war with us, Miro annoyingly remarked. Who then would do this to us, and who would look for the Mals? Who could have such large force? The strong voice came from Picha. Miro walked inside the large hall, turning his back at the elders while Ichard bowed his head and started to think. He too didn't know what happened, for the east was free of their blue flying scouts. He thought then that it was not necessary and they needed the birds more in their advance towards the north and the west. I will send the birds to check what was there in the east, he remarked while he instructed 2 Malservius inside the chamber to carry his order. Miro just stared at him in disappointment. He couldn't blame Ichard, for he too agreed to Ichard's suggestion that the birds were more useful in their advance to the west and the north. Miro bowed his head and felt the cloth covering his bulky body and took out a stone inside his side pocket, rubbed it with his fingers as if cleaning its smooth surface while the confused elders waited for what he was going to say. His thoughts ran fast, thinking of all the information he had from their forces in the north, from the blue falcons that were all scattered in the skies except their east. Nothing seemed to fit. Then, he thought of past events until he thought of Leonardo. It's impossible. Leonardo is dead, Asti told him. He then quickly went towards the large table and opened a drawer where he kept Asti's messages. The elders were wondering what he was up to as he searched inside for the many messages that Asti sent him. He scattered the contents of each drawer until he found what he was looking for, a piece of cloth containing Asti's last message. He read it once more. The visitor is dead. The Jujingjings killed him and threw his body into the river. He crumpled the cloth and looked at the torch from afar that was providing light inside the chamber. He knew that many of Asti's messages bore the event but sometimes lacked the details and consistency. He tried to ask how Leonardo died, but his blue falcon failed to return to give him the answer. He knew that it was Asti's last learning the death of King Diti and the response of the Ozilbenegs against it. He knew Asti fell into the hands of the Ozilbenegs. He believed that Leonardo was thrown off to the river, but his intuition tells him that he survived. He faced his elders. There is only one kind left in this world that can launch a large army against us. When everybody heard these words, they knew who Miro was referring to, and almost everybody came back to their senses and said the same words. The Sumiks. But that's impossible. Why will they travel all the way up here just to find the Mals when they know that they are under threat by us near their shores? Surely, they will think first of their own than seek for the blue stones if that's what they want from here. It doesn't make any sense, Chaco blurted, and Miro was quick to respond. They are not coming here to seek for wealth. They are saving the Mals. I don't understand. Why would they do that when they know that they need every soldier in their land now? Another elder asked. Miro looked at the elders. He bowed his head and stared at the blue stone that he was holding. He opened his hand and let the blue stone roll onto his palm until it rested in its midst. The torchlight immediately illuminated it, reflecting its radiance onto the elders' faces and the walls. Anyone who seeks and found out that what he was seeking for had been long gone is suffering. Anyone who suffers greatly seeks for a refuge. And anyone who learned that the only refuge he has will soon be gone will try to move heavens and earth to take it back. Miro's philosophic and deep remarks perplexed the elders in the chamber. They were all trying to comprehend what he just said. He closed his palm and the soothing blue light immediately disappeared. Leonardo is leading the Sumiks here. He must have learned already about us. Every elder in the room was surprised at Miro's remark. They did not expect that Miro was referring to Leonardo, for all the while they too thought that he was dead, and all were thinking that even if he survived, how was he able to convince the Sumiks to help him save the Mals? I know what you were all thinking. Leonardo reached Agathansha. He is alive. The forces that destroyed our kind in the east were brought there by Leonardo. He made them come with him. Aren't you just thinking wildly on this? Miro Picha remarked. How could Leonardo survive and reach Agathansha? And even if he survived and sat foot on Agathansha, how could he convince the Sumiks to travel a long way with thousands of forces just to save the Mals that are worthless to them? He is nothing there. You are wrong, Picha. Leonardo is not nobody there. He is their king. At these words, the elders almost lost their senses. Each gave a look at each other while some stared at Miro like everything was his fault. Their prejudices were followed by Ichib's remark. We should have killed him then. Miro sensed the minds of the judging faces of the elders before him that were compounded by Ichib's remark. He bowed his head and nodded. Ichib was right. I made a mistake. We could have taken away his life while he was still here. However, I took the risk of sending him away thinking that he would die anyway when we sent him to the west. In the very beginning things were going on as planned. We succeeded in driving away the Redths from the land of the Ozalbenegs, albeit not in the way that I wanted. I thought it will take a little more time before the Ozalbenegs start to resist the Redths, seeing a mortal god that the Redths introduced through Leonardo. However, I did not expect that it will be sooner than I thought. The Redths' greed made them to murder deity that triggered the Ozalbenegs' resistance on the Redths' influence. This opportunity we took, for we can easily make the Ozalbenegs and the Redth land to bow before us. They are fighting against each other and the northern Redths are alone. Everything was working perfectly as planned, but not until now. You can curse me if you want, Ichib, but that won't do anything now. Your role is to protect us and keep the fortress and our soldiers out from harm's way. Your role is to destroy our enemies and not to be here and speak how I screwed up things as if I was the one commanding the large forces that failed to repel the enemies in the east. Miro's eyes shot back like daggers piercing at Ichib's. The pressure shifted to Ichib being the overall head army of the Malservius. He knew Miro was right. It was his responsibility to repel any enemy that they had and to know the surroundings around them. He bowed his head in embarrassment as if apologizing to Miro and the elders for making such wild and unwitting remark. We must leave now, for in 2 days, they will be here. Miro continued. This time, the elders were awakened and their biases turned against Ichib. Miro's control over them was regained. What about the Mals? If we fail to bring the Mals, you know what will happen to you, Chaco. Miro watched Chaco changed face and fell silent. He knew what Miro meant. The Malservius who died in the east were given lives by the 4 Malservia elders. The lives of Malservius were all interconnected. They too had their own respective races, and the elders in the chambers, excluding Miro, represented the different races of the Malservius. Those in the east fortress were the Malservius whose lives were connected with the 4 Malservia elders. Their death was the death of those who gave them their lives. Those in the cliffs and the west fortress were the Malservius that were given lives by Chaco and 2 other elder Malservius. Each Malservia elder can replicate up to 3,000 other Malservius at a time. It didn't require for all the clones to die before the source dies. When more than half of the clones die or was wounded, the source could die together with the remaining clones depending on how an elder's body could take the pain that transferred to him each time a Malservia is wounded or loses life. This also works in the reverse. If the source dies, the rest follows. Elders were the most protected among the Malservius.